I don't usually use the word cause, Michelle, in part because you have to understand for a couple of decades, physicians and the public were taught that the medications were attacking the root cause of mental disorders. And we don't have time to go into that, but it's certainly, there's been a shift. At any rate, the last chapter of our book is our vision for the future, which is what you're reflecting on from the TEDx talk, which is truly, there is a place for medication. There will always be a place for medication, but it shouldn't be first place, especially in developing brains.
The biggest challenge we have with finding proper treatment for mental health issues is that we're treating the symptoms. I mean, what physical illnesses do you know of that they don't look for the root cause of the illness and then treat that? You know, you're not going around treating strep throat with throat lozenges and ibuprofen. You're going to go give the person an antibiotic to treat the strep throat. And I wish that we were more focused on that. So can you think of a way? I mean, what have you guys been doing? I guess you're writing the book, but how can we affect change that way? Because I feel like I look back on my experience and I think I wish that I had been given a different option at the beginning. Like I wish that I had been given a treatment plan that would have been looking for the causes of the symptoms rather than just trying to put Band-Aids on it by giving me drugs to treat the symptom.
I don't usually use the word cause, Michelle, in part because you have to understand for a couple of decades, physicians and the public were taught that the medications were attacking the root cause of mental disorders. And we don't have time to go into that, but it's certainly, there's been a shift. At any rate, the last chapter of our book is our vision for the future, which is what you're reflecting on from the TEDx talk, which is truly, there is a place for medication. There will always be a place for medication, but it shouldn't be first place, especially in developing brains. First, improve the way people are eating, and that's what we were talking about earlier, learning about whole foods, getting them off of the ultra-processed chemicals, which are not foods at all, but we call them ultra-processed foods. And then, if need be, adding a broad-spectrum micronutrient, and then also incorporating all the other lifestyle variables, exercise, meditation, support, networking, all those kinds of things. And only if there is still a need after all of that, bring in medication as needed. So, we're definitely on the same page about that. I just don't want to use the word root cause, the term root cause.
Well, I guess the reason why I say that is because when I was first treated, I was told I had a chemical imbalance, and I still struggle not to use that word anymore because it was so ingrained in me. And all of the, anytime I would go off of a medication and I was experiencing withdrawals, it was all attributed to my disorder. All of it was focused on the disorder. There was no acknowledgement that any of that was being caused by the medications.
Right.
And, and so I believed all of that. And I was told that my illness was progressive and that it was chronic, that it would never get any better. And I believed all of those things for so long. And I got to a point where, I got to a point where I just thought the best that I could expect out of life was learning how to suffer well with bipolar. That was what I came to believe. And it was supported by what the doctors were telling me. It was supported by what I was seeing in other people that were struggling with the same disorder, bipolar disorder. And so it's been, I am filled with gratitude. That's actually why I started my blog and why I started this, this live and the podcast and everything, was because I wanted to try and share what I've learned, because I don't want people to keep suffering. But it feels a little bit frustrating. That's why I said when I was reading your book, I had to kind of pace myself because I would get so angry when I was reading. I thought, why isn't this common knowledge? Why aren't all the doctors using this research, and why aren't we looking into it more? And why isn't there every hospital and every research facility? Why aren't they? This should be the thing that we're focused on when we're trying to treat mental health. Is let's look for what's causing these symptoms to happen, because symptoms are an indication that the brain is in distress. When we have mental symptoms, it shows us that there's something wrong. The brain is trying to tell us there's something off, something's not right. But instead of listening to it and trying to figure out what's causing the distress, what's causing the symptoms to happen, we just keep putting Band-Aids on it.
So,
So
Michelle,
sorry.
That's okay. I understand your feelings. You asked me a question I haven't really answered yet, though, that I'd like to address. You said, what are we doing about it besides writing a book? The book is just a vehicle to educate the public and to educate other people. And if it's any comfort to you, I've been invited to give 120 plus, another, say 140 lectures and and those aren't even the interviews, podcasts, since the book came out. And those are all over the place. And Zoom has made it all possible. And so I think that we are influencing some people. But in the meantime, let me tell you about a little ray of hope. There are people who are talking about culinary medicine now and culinary kitchens. And at the University of Alberta in Edmonton, Alberta, which is 300 kilometers north of where I live in Calgary, a group of medical students got together. They read my book. They asked me to speak to them and guide them. And they also have some excellent nutrition researchers, real nutrition researchers, not like me as a psychologist, at University of Alberta. And they put together a curriculum, and they got it approved by the medical school that they attend. And next fall, for the first time ever, there is an elective on nutrition and health. And it's being run by these 3 medical students, and all the rest of us on faculties who have been working with them are going to be lecturing and talking, and they're going to be doing cooking lessons as part of it, and educating people about the importance of nutrition at a time when they need to hear it, when they're in medical school. That's going on much more commonly in the US. It's the first glimmer of hope I've seen out here in Western Canada. So that's the kind of thing we need to see more of.
That's fantastic. I'm so happy to hear that.